Welcome back, folks. In today's class, I'll be talking about chapter number 9.4, and that is creating a confidence interval for the proportions for P. That's what we're gonna do in today's class. Now, before I jump into this topic, I just wanted to tell you that previously I made a video on the how to select the Z distribution versus T distribution. Now, I just wanted to tell you that Z distribution or T distribution, when you are making the selection, this can only be applied to chapter 9, confidence interval, or chapter 10, or chapter 11, chapter 10 and chapter 11. I've seen sometimes students can confuse themselves when they are looking into a question on chapter number 8. Chapter number 8 is a topic on the center limit theorem. When they see the sample size of 20, 25 there, they start confusing themselves that whether to use the Z distribution or T distribution when they are solving a question on center limit theorem. Now, if you're not creating a confidence interval or you are not writing a hypothesis, you don't need to confuse yourself. You just keep on using the Z distribution. Okay, so hopefully you are clear about this thing, when to use the Z distribution and T distribution. I just forgot to tell you about this thing in the previous video, so that's why I covered it up in this video. All right, now let's look into the questions on chapter number 9. Now, first of all, I'll read this question, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all try and find out which chapter this question belongs to, then which formula to use, and then we're going to try and solve the question. A polling company conducts a poll leading up to the federal elections. Okay, the elections are coming out to figure out the percentage of the voters of the country which will approve the current prime minister. The survey asked the voters and ranked their approval of the prime minister on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is strongly disapproved and 2 is disapproved and 3 is neutral, 4 is approved, 5 is strongly approved. Okay, this is just a process they are using. A sample of 1,000 voters were surveyed, and the results of the poll showed that 32.4% of the voters approved or strongly approved the prime minister. The polling company states that the polls are accurate up to the 3 percentage point. Okay, and 19 out of 20, 19 times out of 20, which means, okay, 3 percentage points and 19 times out of 20. Using the language of confidence interval, interpret the meaning of the polling company's statement and verify its accuracy, whether whatever they are saying is they are accurate or not. So clearly it says using the language of confidence interval. So it is a question on chapter number 9. So I figured it that I've narrowed down to chapter 9 now. Okay, now, within chapter 9, which formula I'm going to use? I'm going to use the first formula on your formula booklet, which is given to you, E equal to Z alpha over 2 multiplied by sigma over square root of n, or the second formula, E equal to T alpha over 2 multiplied by T multiplied by S upon square root of n. Okay, or the third formula, which is given to me, Z alpha over 2 one more time, and but this time around multiply by square root of p hat q hat upon n. So basically these are the only three formulas which are there. There's you will see a lot of other information. That information is just just using the algebra, they moved around the terms. Okay, now I have to select between these three formulas which one I should select. Can I select this one? Is the standard deviation of the population given to me? It's just not talking about any kind of a population. Okay, this is not given to me, standard deviation of population, so I can reject this one. Is on and whole the standard deviation is not given to me, let alone for population or sample, so I will reject this formula also. Now, uh, obviously first two are rejected, so I'm going to select the third one. Another way of looking at this one is that you are given sample proportion. So this value, if I see clearly, 32.4% percentage is given to me, so it's a question on proportion. So I figured out that I have to use this formula to calculate the margin of error. So margin of error, I will calculate E equal to Z alpha over 2 times square root of P hat Q hat upon N. If you are confusing again, if your brain is telling you whether to use the Z or T, Simply, whenever you have a question on the proportion, we gonna keep on using the Z, because that's what this distribution says to me. All right, so E is equal to Z alpha over 2. Now, before I start solving this question, I have to draw the diagram. All right, so in this, I'm creating a confidence interval. What is the confidence interval values? It means the alpha value. So the alpha value is how much? Okay, so let's read the question. I'd like you guys to pause the video and try and figure out how much confidence level in this question it says. All right, hopefully you were able to figure out. So it says, let's read this line. This line is giving me the information about the sample size. Okay, and the next line, let's see what is given to me. The polling company states that the poll is accurate within 3%. So 3% points, that is information is given to me. So you can be either 3% on the left hand side or 3% on the right hand side of the actual value. That's what it is saying. With 19 times out of 20 points, 19 times of out of 20. So that is confidence interval. Okay, poll is accurate within 3 percentage points, 19 time out of 20. So confidence interval is 19 times out of 20, which is 0.95. Okay, so this is the CI value. If CI is 0.95, confidence interval is 0.95, alpha value will be equal to 0.05. I'm sure you guys by now know how to calculate alpha. So this region at this point, this is 0.025, and at this point, this is 0.975. These are the values. All right, now I need to calculate the margin of error. E value will be equal to Z alpha over 2. Correspond to this point, Z value is negative 1.96. Here it is 1.96. So E equal to 1.96 multiplied by, I will multiply it by P hat. P hat is given to me 32.4% approved for the sample. So 0.324 and multiply by Q value, which is 1 minus P, 1 minus 0.324, and then divided by 1000. So once you're going to do the calculation for this question, you're going to get the value as 0.0290. That is the value we've got. So for the margin of error, so we got for a 95% confidence interval, the margin of error value came out to be 0.0290. Is it within the 3 percentage? So if I multiply this number with 100, E equal to 0.0290 multiplied by 100, that comes out to be 2.9%. So the margin of error we calculated is 2.9%. So within 3% points. Okay, so yes, it is within 3% point. So therefore, the results of the poll stated are correct. So they are accurate. So that's how we gonna solve questions like this. All right, now I will take another question on the sample size now. So figure out the sample size, determine the size of the sample. That's what the question is. So I will like you guys to pause the video and try and first of all figure out what's given in this question, then we will do it together. All right, so hopefully you were able to read the question. Let's do this question now. In the polling company example 9.4b, which was the previous one, the one which I posted here in this example, wanted to ensure that the every survey they conducted would be accurate within 2% point now, and 19 times out of 20, regardless of the proportion of the population. Suppose the prime minister uh, determine the size of the sample they would need to collect. So we are looking for n value. So sample size, you are given the formula. That formula is equal to P times Q times Z alpha over 2, and divided by E and square. With that, it is also given if the proportion is not given to you, population proportion, you can apply it to sample proportion also. Look into the formula booklet. This is how they are writing it: Z alpha over 2 and divided by E and square this value. Okay, so if I'm not given the population proportion, I'll take the sample proportion. Okay, p hat value. So is the p hat value given to me? It is not given to me. So what can I do with this? I'm uh, I'm confused now. So let's see. It is regardless of the 19% of the population that's supposed to prime minister, regardless of the proportion of the population that's supposed to prime minister, determine the size of the sample needed to collect the survey. Now, in this kind of a question, if you are not given the value, so you can make an assumption that either they're going to like him or they're not going to like him. There can only be two outputs, isn't it? That's what the whole idea is. So I would say that p hat value is equal to 0.5 and q hat value in that sense will also be 0.5. Either they like it or they don't like it. I'm giving the equal opportunity to both the numbers. So this value is 0.5 times 0.5, and now Z alpha over 2. It is a confidence interval of 95% again, because 19 times out of 20 it says. Okay, so they wanted to ensure that every survey they conduct would be accurate within 2 percentage points. So E value, I would say in this case, is 0.02. Okay, 2% it says. And then it also says 19 times out of 20. So confidence interval is 19 times out of 20. So this is 95%. And here the value will be 0.025, here value will be 0.975, and Z value here is 1.96 negative, Z value here is 1.96 positive. So we figured out the Z value as 1.96 and 0.02 as the margin of error, which is given to us in the question, and then square it. So we're gonna get the value approximately, if you gonna do the calculation, the value will come out to be approximately 2401. Remember this number, if you got 2400.75 or 1535, doesn't matter, you just always round up this number. Okay, so the n value, the sample size, if you wanted to conduct your research up to a margin of error of 2%, then your sample size should move from 1000, which was at 3%, margin of error at 3%. Now it should move to a sample size of 2401 at least. So approximately you're going to go for a 2500 people. You will survey 2500 people to get the accuracy up to keep the margin of error up to 2%. So hopefully you were able to understand this question. I'll see you with another video. Till then, goodbye.